I don't know if any of you are familiar with Gert Hofstede. He's a famous sociologist and researcher who did some seminal work at IBM in the 1960s and 70s. He did these massive surveys of 170,000 IBM employees at the time. Because at that time, if you were a global company and you had people that were going around the world and you needed to tell someone, here's how you need to act in Romania, don't do a handshake or don't do this or don't touch your head, whatever those things were, that's where a lot of cultural communication was at back then. And he wanted to know why. Why is that? Why is when we say that person acts so German or that person acts so American, what does that mean? And what he was able to do is come up with some cultural dimensions. He broke everything down into really 6 basic dimensions. And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I urge you to go to his website and look this up, and look up Romania. And he has these dimensions, power distance, how people feel about the disparity in wealth in a culture, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and even indulgence. And they kind of sound like what they are. It's interesting to use it not to really just look at one country, but in comparison with another. And that's where you can tease out some things. So I will pause and say there are some really interesting things around individualism, even masculinity, and uncertainty avoidance, and the differences between 2 cultures. And you can do this for a number of countries that he's done this research. The reason I bring it up is twofold. One, it's interesting that IBM, a super hardcore tech company, is actually doing and has a history of doing this kind of research about understanding people, having empathy for how people need to think, and this is one way to quantify it. The way IBM thinks now, and the way that we tend to think, is everybody has a model, and we have a circle, and lots of tech things around it, enablers. These are a lot of the things that IBM does on a daily basis. The middle bit, and I want to emphasize, this was done by the hard tech consulting group at IBM. This is what we do. And they put in the middle customer experience. Sometimes it just says experience, sometimes it's human experience. And didn't really flesh it out. And then my group is really trying to think through, how do we talk to people? How do we create that empathy on a grand scale so we can understand people? And this is the research I want to go through, but again, to give you some context. We tend to think of that circle, we're trying to unpack it, if you will, to be a little bit UX, and let me explain this. So user experience from our perspective is like how things work. Can you find the phone number on the website? We have this here for, I can find the shoes if this is like imagine you're buying shoes online at a company in America called Zappos. That's like, I can make it work. The customer experience is everything that brings it together. I had a great experience, I talked to this great person, the shoes fit, they're a great price, and that's what we're all usually trying to get at. Why I love Flavia and this conference and these presenters is that we're really focused on the brand experience. And everyone, the next day and a half, are really going to pull this apart. To me, and what our research kind of teased out a little bit, was that this brand experience is, in this terms of Zappos, is I've met some of my best friends through events that Zappos has sponsored. And when you think about that, and what we're going to talk about with human belonging, people are using brands in a different way. People also, we like to say that a majority of consumers say that they would switch brands if the experience doesn't feel human. And that's why I'm doing this setup with IBM of like this hardcore tech AI and this humanity. My group tries to bring the humanity to it and try to bring the empathy, not just to our clients, but internally. And it's something that we struggle with, honestly. Every day, 350,000 people is a lot of people to convince you need to think this way, not that way, and in their day jobs. So in terms of like marketers, in terms of us, we struggle to deliver on these changing expectations that people have. That's just a common truth that will never change because people's expectations change for experience, et cetera. But we did some research on human belonging because we had a hypothesis that we wanted to really dive into and prove out. And we unlocked a couple of insights, and this is the slide I take umbrage with, my own slide. I think we found something really interesting. It's insightful only in the way that you could apply it, and that's what I'm going to leave you with today, is a way to apply a framework so that you can get insights about your customers and your brand. So in a nutshell, before I show you a little video, our hypothesis is that there's a belonging deficit in the world, that people have a need to belong, always have.